Welcome, Art One. This is Ms. Jewett. I'm here to help you get started on your paper mache project. Before you get started, you should make sure that you have a proper work area. Let's not use a nice dining room table. Let's make sure that we have an open table that is easily accessible to work on. Make sure that you have your newspaper in strips and ready to be used. Also make sure that you have big sheets of newspaper, that you have tape, lots of tape and extra tape, and maybe even a little bit of extra newspaper. And also make sure that you have your reference photos for you to refer back to. It's also very important while you're constructing your sculpture to remember these few tips. To compress your paper. If your paper is not compressed, it will result in loose paper that will create bumps and lumps in your paper. It will also eventually cause your sculpture to collapse. The more compressed paper that's forced into your project, creating a denser sculpture will create a better overall sculpture that's more structurally sound. Anything that's loose is going to, in turn into a collapsed piece, tears, or just crumpled paper. Also make sure that you over-tape. Tape is really what's structurally keeping our piece together. It's helping compress that paper down, so make sure that you use a lot of tape. More tape, the more stable your piece will be. Look at those reference photos. Look at the shapes that your animal is broken down into. It'll help you decide how to form the paper to make sure that your animal is meeting the requirements and meeting the look that you're looking for. Also, go slow, don't rush. If you're unhappy with how your piece is looking, then take a step back, reassess the situation, and try again. Don't force yourself to make something that doesn't look great. Bowl to create that sea turtle shape. I'm using saran wrap to cover the bowl to make sure that my paper mache does not stick. So if you are having to use the same process, please make sure that you're using saran wrap to create that barrier in between your mold and the actual piece. So I did that, and then I added the paper mache on top.
Okay, now I'm going to start actually assembling my animal. So a few things that I have is a Sharpie, some extra cardboard, lots of newspaper, lots of tape, a pair of scissors. I have my reference photos and my sketches.
As strong as possible.
And now I'm going to create a nice clean area for me to work on. Remember, like I said, make sure you have a table that's good to be used, have your cardboard, have all your stuff ready to go. So I've already taken off the shell of my turtle, and now I'm going to figure out how I'm going to want to combine and create that animal. So because it is a very thin piece of paper that I've made as the shell, I am going to compress paper to add it to the video or add it to my animal. So a huge part of having a steady, stable animal for your sculpture is having paper compression. Paper compression is what makes sure that it has all the strength that it needs to stay standing or stay even sitting or just be in general. When you're adding the paper mache on top of it, it is liquid. So having that compression creates mass that makes it so that wet paper that's being applied to it doesn't just make it slump and fall into kind of nothing and just a big mess. A big reason why you're going to use so much tape in this project is because you're using that tape as binding to combine your animal. So I am taping from all sides, and see, I'm pressing the paper in each time I'm forming. This is not something that is just one and done. It is going to take time to form and get your animal exactly how you want it. Later in the video, I do show a process of me breaking up smaller strips of tape and having them ready for me to use. I would highly suggest doing this before. Get 10 smaller pieces of tape just torn up, ready for you to use, just so you're not trying to hold your piece in a certain location, well then also having to tear tape off. You'll see me struggle a little bit further in the video with it. So the more prep work that you can do, the better. See, I'm also tearing up some smaller pieces of paper. You might want to think about having a few varying sizes of paper. So whole sheets of newspaper and then some smaller strips also. And I'm just making sure that all of the parts of my sculpture are totally filled with paper. As I said, it's that compression. And then I'm taping, making sure that it's all tight and really stuck in there. Part of using the tape also is it's helping me form the shell, so it's not just a perfect circle, because I did want it more of an oval shape, so using the tape to form that circle into an oval is also very helpful for me. So now I have my overall shell shape. It got a little crushed, so I'm popping it back out, making sure that it's all tight and in there, that it lays down. And see, I've noticed that part of it wasn't working, so I went back and edited a little bit. Part of this process is to like seeing what works and what doesn't work, and then moving from there. So I have my animal shell ready for my turtle. I'm going to add one more piece of tape to make sure that there's no tears in it. If you see an easy tear or like a pivot point that would be easy to tear or rip, go ahead and put a piece of tape over it. Help it out. Let's not make it harder on ourselves than we have to. So I am going to start making the head of my turtle bird. And so make sure that and notice that I'm really, really compressing each time. So I'm putting in all my strength each time I'm smushing that paper together. I'm really, really compressing and twisting and making sure that there's no free space available. You want to make sure that you're creating as much mass as possible. And see how I'm checking to make sure that the head is the right size for the body. Your sketches will help a lot with that. Your sketches will also help you know what kind of shape you need to be forming that animal head into. So as you can see, I'm using the tape to compress and get that nice tight animal head. And so even if that is too small, you can add paper on top of it. Like I said, it's helping you compress and make the paper tight and ready for you to add more on top of it. So in this stage I'm at right now, that is when it would be easy and better to have some tape ready to go so you're not struggling as much. So I'm forming the paper with my hand to get the shape of the muzzle for the turtle that I would like. I'm compressing with that tape and then forming the animal head again. And if you saw, I am smoothing the tape as I go. I want to make sure that there's no big pieces of tape sticking out. There's no big loops of tape. Like I keep saying over and over again, the name of the game is compression. You want to compress every single thing together. I'm checking to make sure, and I'm thinking about how I'm gonna add a neck on to actually combine that head to the body. So that's actually another thing that you should really think about as you're building or about to get started building your animal. Heads sit on top of necks, necks sit on top of shoulders, hands are attached to wrists, and wrists are attached to forearms. So there's lots of little parts of the body, so think about how you're going to incorporate those into your animal. Remember, tape is strength. Strength makes sure that your sculpture stays together. See, I'm struggling with the tape, so having that tape ready to be used, torn apart, is a really smart idea. And I'm taping all the way around because one piece of tape is not going to create that structure and strength that we need to keep it all together. So I noticed that I'm missing some of that, that neck to head combo, so I'm adding a little bit more paper in there to really make sure it's strong and the bird turtle is able to hold its own head up. And I'm forming the head once again to make sure that it fits the body and fits how I want to. Also, see how I'm not just taping the head in, I actually put it into the body form. Doing that once again creates more strength, more of an armature that is created. So think about how you're going to do that. It's better to have everything be a part as one, not separate wholes. Lots of tape. Tape is our strength. Okay, well, I have the start of my turtle bird, and I need to move on to my legs. I'm thinking about how I would like my legs to look in comparison. Now I have my animal ready for legs, and with the legs.